morning, good afternoon, good evening, guys, wherever you are in the world. This is REGANELITE, and welcome to another episode of Snowflake Viewpoint. This one is a little bit different, and as you guys have noticed, trying to come into this one, this is an 18 plus, and the reason why I've age restricted this one is because of some of the stories that are going to be told within this special edition of the Viewpoint, guys. This is about Byline Times and the amazing work that they do, but this 3-year investigation that they have been doing into Dan Wootton, and we're going to be looking at all 6 of the articles from Byline Times that they have published so far. As far as the time of recording, they have not recorded any more, but we are going to read through all of them together, guys. So I just wanted to put that out there, so there's a good chance that we may go over the hour mark. I do have 2 funny videos to kind of just break the ice a little bit. So there are 6 news articles from Byline Times that we will go through together, and there will be a funny video in between, one and one at the end, just to kind of let us off on a bit of a more of a higher spirits. There is no good news story tonight as well, just for you guys' reference as well. And there was something else I was supposed to mention, and I can't remember off the life of me what it is. So I'm sure it'll come to me. Oh yes, my apologies. So guys, obviously in the link I've just put in the chat, there is a link there to support Byline Times and their work. Obviously they've been under siege, shall we say, ever since they brought this story to light. If you guys can in any way support Byline Times, please do. The link is in the chat, and the link is also to subscribe to them. It's in the description. I will encourage later as we go along, if the mods, not right now, but later on later on in the stream, if they can just replug that link for the chat. Yeah, if they can subscribe, if you can subscribe to Byline Times for their work, that would be greatly appreciated, because they need all the help they can get against these perpetrators. So let me just say quickly hello. We got into the chat because there is a lot to talk about on this. Good evening, Jal. Good to see you, buddy. I'm glad you're well. Alistair Keir, good to see you, bud. Hope you're well. Chatty Rat, good to see you there. And One Angry Pagan, good to see you guys all. Yeah, we're not going to have many numbers tonight simply because I've age restricted it, so the numbers are not going to be as high as they normally are. But maybe some people will turn up. But I've had to age restrict it because of what we're talking about today, guys. So let's crack straight into it, guys. From start to finish, pretty much this is what this is going to be. So the first one, obviously, this broke out obviously 17th of July, guys, is when the news first broke of it. The GB News star Dan Wootton's unmasked for the cash for sexual image catfishing scandal, part of its 3-year special investigation. Byline Times reveals the accounts of the victims targeted by the powerful TV presenter. I will stress this now, and I will be stressing this multiple times throughout the live stream, guys. These are allegations. As of the time of recording, Dan Wootton has denied any of this, and also at the time of recording, both GB News and the MailOnline have not responded to these allegations from Byline Times as well. So it's also important to point that out. I'm never going to get the names right. Wootton-gate. Yep, you can call it Wootton-gate if you want, Jal. So, GB News presenter and MailOnline columnist Dan Wootton hid behind fake online identities to trick and bribe scores into men into revealing compromising sexual material. Byline Times can reveal in the first part of a 3-year special investigation. The 40-year-old broadcaster and self-styled voices against woke culture. Those show Dan Wootton Tonight is the biggest rating winner in the UK's 4th most watched news channel, targeting journalistic colleagues, friends and members of the public for at least 10 years. Byline Times has extensive evidence to show that between June 2008 and 2018, Wootton, who is gay, posed as fictitious show business agents called Martin Branning to offer sums up to $30,000 tax-free to his targets, many of whom were heterosexual men. Among them are very senior executives at Rupert Murdoch's UK News, alongside at least 6 other staff at the Sun newspaper, with one close links to News UK CEO Rebecca Brooks, friends, Facebook associates and users of the dating app Grindr and Gator. 2 of the targets made criminal complaints to Scotland Yard without knowing the real identity of the tormentor, with detectives aware of activities of Branning, whose name is a portmanteau of EastEnders character Martin Flower and Max Branning since 2019. Our journalist handed a 28-page dossier of evidence to the Metropolitan Police for investigation on the 20th of June 2023. However, last week's criminal claims started to emerge on social media, with posts rapidly attracting more than 18 million viewers, causing Wootton to trend on Twitter for several days. As a result, the newspapers today publishing some of the details of the finding. We have identified 5 co-conspirators along with a representative of groups around a dozen victims. However, sources suggest the true picture extends to many, many more men. Byline Times knows the names of those involved, but in order to protect the victims and the court of justice, we will not reveal them publicly. Wootton has been off air at GB News, of which he hosts a regular 2-night show, for 2 weeks, having to leave the family, who lives near the Wellington and his native New Zealand. He has been silent in the face of mass Twitter accusations, except for a retweet promotion of his broadcast return due at 9 PM tonight. Well, we will cover that in the next article anyway, on that one. In his absence, the news channel has covered the money for sexual image controversy around the BBC, and its lead presenter Hugh Edwards describing the story as a nuclear bomb. Standing Mark Donovan told viewers on Dan Wootton Tonight, "It's a very bad day for Hugh Evans as he's battled for his health and the future of his career, but for the BBC it's even worse." Donovan added on July 14th that this Hugh Evans story is not going anywhere. At the time of Don's most recent comments, Byline Times investigation had already informed executives that the GB News was the scope and the ferocity of allegations against Wootton, but the channel has continuously to heavily promote Wootton's programme. During the established period of his activities, Wootton was initially an influential editor for Murdoch News of the World, before moving, once the paper closed in 2011, after the phone hacking scandal, to the Daily Mail, and then from 2013 to Britain's biggest selling tabloid, The Sun, in which he edited his bizarre showbiz column before becoming an associated editor. His career giving him great power and influence in British media and access to the world of television, celebrity and the monarchy, of which is the highly paid professional role to report. Tonight, a representative for Dan Wootton declined to provide Byline Times with an on-the-record response. It's understood that he strongly denies all allegations of criminality, which he has. Yeah, all that bit we kind of know about. Just to see, known names, hidden suspects, blackmail alleged is always a sensible subject. Yeah. Byline Times evidence extends to an account of omissions Dan Wootton made to a trusted former colleague and friends, to which, during his many moments of crisis, he revealed his fear of being exposed to as Martin Branning and the prospect of a pile-on of victims. One victim, who was married with children, told his newspaper that he was left in shock to receive a text from Branning offering him £10,000 tax-free in return for private work to pose nude, adding that he felt like blackmailed or entrapment. A second victim told Byline Times that Branning had sent him messages from untraceable numbers day and night, offering sums up to £30,000 in returns for sexually compromising pictures and that sort of thing. This victim has said to have uncovered a pattern of men who had worked with Wootton being harassed with unsolicited malicious communications. It's all pretty much the same thing, 20 to 30,000 for naked photos. Aren't you intrigued about who I am? This sort of stuff, right? He said, adding that it was driving him insane and ultimately provoked him to go to the police, who sent a detective to his home to take a statement in 2019. A third victim, a former junior colleague who has indicated he's willing to speak to the police, revealed how on several occasions he received disgusting calls with offers of work with a sexual context, and that was pretty obvious they were from Wootton. A fourth victim, another junior colleague who contacted on Facebook by Wootton in 2009, posing as a blonde woman called Mara Joseph, who exchanged flirty messages before swapping images of an unconnected female face from reality TV in return for images of the colleague, who is heterosexual and today is also married with children. The fourth victim said, "I received a friend's request from a girl called Maria Joseph. Immediately she was very flirty, and having just come out of a messy breakup, I didn't have my wits about me as much as I should. Soon she started to send me semi-nude pictures and swapped to email and phone. Her number was a New Zealand number, and she said she'd just come back from a year over there. As more pictures came through, she started to request them from me, which I duly obliged. Fortunately, I kept my face out of. She then started to send ones she already sent, which she brushed off with, obviously talking to a few guys at the same time. At this point, I was being super careful and started to snoop further into her profile. Catfishing wasn't really a known thing back then, but I knew something was up. We had 5 friends in common on Facebook, Dan plus 4 others. When I clicked the others, the only common link was Dan. Then a video came through of her having sex with a man. However, I recognised him as someone from a reality TV show. He's a friend of a friend. He made me realise I knew the identity of the girl and that it could not be legitimate. So with this New Zealand number, the sole common denominator, I was sure it was him. So I messaged Mara to say, "Hi Dan, interested in the way to get dick pics." The next day the profile was gone. I was embarrassed that I had not been vigilant. It makes my blood run cold as to how vulnerable I had vulnerable I had made myself. I felt stupid. Byline Times is published today following a series of revelations made on Twitter by Wootton's former partner, 4 years, Alex Toynbee, in a thread of tweets which at the time of publication had attracted more than 50 million views. Mr. Toynbee said that Wootton gained unauthorised access to his social media accounts and emails, leading them to the suspect that he was being stalked. The intrusion became evident when Mr. Toynbee found his Gmail account to be accessed from an IP address at the News of the World office where Wootton was employed at the time. Mr. Toynbee was also told that he was flat-sitting at Wootton in 2013, who was visiting family in New Zealand. He was found padlocked, holding or concealed behind Wootton's washing machine, which he opened and found an external hard drive containing a secretly filmed video of the employee of the Sun engaged in sexual activities with their partners. In the video, Mr. Toynbee described finding of the transcript of an MSN Messenger conversation between the Sun employee's partner and Martin Branning. The MSN conversation was between the colleague's partner and someone called Martin Branning, whereby an arrangement was made to make the sex tape in secret without his colleague's knowledge in exchange for £500. Mr. Toynbee wrote, "I knew instantly that Martin Branning was dead." I will come round to reading you guys in the comments, guys. We know most of this already, but I just kind of want to just put it on the record for this first article. Byline Times has learned that before the ending of his relationship with Wootton, Mr. Toynbee confronted him over the contents of the holdall. Mr. Toynbee said that Wootton made a tearful admission of guilt, acknowledging that he was the creator and controller of the photomaton Martin Branning. Byline Times has put the content of the story in its entirety to GB News, Online Mail and the Metropolitan Police. After it was announced that Wootton would be fronting his regular GB News show at 9 PM this evening, Byline Times again approached for comment. Again, they still haven't responded. A spokesperson for News UK said, "We're receiving an email from Byline this afternoon. We're looking into it. We're not making any further comment at this stage. And this newspaper dossier remains with the Metropolitan Police." So that we've covered this already in a video, but I just kind of wanted to put it out there on the record, guys. So we're going to look at his response that he made a few days later. Let me just have a look in the comments. Anything more to kind of add? Evening, Ben, good to see you, buddy. Thanks for that video on Grenfell. I've added that to the video description. That's really nice. That was lovely to read. Yeah, thanks for those plugs, Joe. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's going to be a quiet. Yeah, chat's going to be quiet tonight, obviously, because it is an 18+, just because of the things we're going to be talking about. So that's probably why I've done it that way, guys. Okay, so obviously Dan Wootton reveals regret and claims dark forces attacking GB News in response to Byline Times' 3-year investigation. So this was 2 days later. The TV presenter did not address his newspaper's detailed allegations of him using fake persona to target men online. So this is what his response at the time when he responded to them. So the GB News presenter tonight admitted live on air to regrets and errors of judgment in his past while failing to address the detailed allegations of Byline Times' story that he used a fake online persona to trick and bribe scores of men into revealing compromising sexual material over at least a 10-year period. 10 years this has been going on, allegedly, by the story. In his monologue to viewers at the top of his 9 o'clock show, Dan Wootton Tonight, Wootton said, "I felt like a fallible human being. I made errors of judgment in the past." Without providing his audience any context to the nature of the errors, he added, "Who doesn't have regrets? Should I be cancelled for them years later, or do you accept that I have learned and changed? Over the past few years, I've grown professionally and personally, and I've found the meaning of true love." Okay. It came as it was announced that Byline Times' 3-year investigation into Wootton, a highly paid columnist for MailOnline and former executive of The Sun, has provoked their publishers to address this new paper revelation. In a report on ITV News at 10 on Tuesday evening, journalist Rebecca Barry said that both The Sun and the Mail had confirmed tonight they are investigating allegations against him. A representative for Dan Wootton on Monday declined to provide Byline Times with an on-the-record response. It is understood that he strongly denies all allegations of criminality. The representative did not clarify when asked whether Wootton also denies being Martin Branning. He started his show on Tuesday night with the tirade against the so-called cesspit of thousands of trolls on Twitter, intent on having him in GB News, the UK's most full-watched news channel, cancelled. ignoring the substance of issues raised by the Byline Times story, the second instalment of which he will be published. Wootton warned that there are dark forces out there to try and take down this brilliant channel town because GB News is the biggest threat to establishment in decades and it will stop at nothing to destroy us. They are the establishment, GB News. You are the establishment. You're not different. Hi, Simon says, good to see you, buddy. On Monday, Byline Times revealed some of the extent of the evidence. We covered most of that. £30,000. Yeah, we covered that already. Among them are very senior executives of Rupert Murdoch's UK news agency, along the list 6 other staff at the Sun newspaper. One close link to the UK CEO Rebecca Brooks. We've covered that already. 2 of the targets made criminal complaints to Scotland Yard without knowing the real identity of their tormentors, while detectives were aware of Branning, whose name is the prominent of EastEnders character Martin Fallon Briggs. Jim Waterson of The Guardian also revealed on Tuesday that he had been investigating complaints about Branning for 3 years but had not been able to trace his real identity. So The Guardian were apparently looking into this as well, but they didn't obviously dig as much as Byline Times have been digging for a long time on this. Byline Times journalist handling a 28-page dossier, yet we've read that already. Scotland Yard confirmed to The Independent that in June 2020, the Metropolitan Police was contacted in regards to allegations of sexual offences committed by a man. Officers are assessing information as to whether any criminal offences have taken place. There is no criminal police investigation at this time. During the GB News monologue, Wootton also emphasised that he had not made any comments during the forward around Hugh Edwards, after some made anonymous and unsustained allegations about the BBC News presenter. He had been on leave in New Zealand over the past 2 weeks when the scandal broke. However, when this morning's presenter Philip Schofield was recently embroiled in allegations about his relationship with a younger member of staff, Wootton cited a whistleblower who declared, "I would have thought in this day and age that a mainstream broadcaster such as ITV ought to seem to be doing all it can to deal with issues like this, to find out where the truth lies, and in the meantime suspend those who rumours concerns." Wootton appears to condone the messages by demanding the truth this time, not the scandal and fairy tale Schofield offered up on the sofa in an unsuspected British public. Insiders at GB News said the presenter cried when he first saw the Byline Times published story on Monday in the GB News green room during the open ad break on his show. Another source claimed that his production team of 16 people were shocked at the atmosphere was funeral. Insiders also claim that Wootton took advice from a former tabloid editor. Whether the advice seemed to have decided to stake the colours of the entire GB News operation to his own career by claiming that Byline Times journalism was somehow an attack on the channel, rather than a public interest revelation about his personal behaviour over many years while employed in other news organisations. So some bits and bobs there from Independent, Guardian, some other bits there that have been added on. But this bit here about him basically showing that he was extremely upset when it broke there at GB News. Yeah, I just don't like at the moment, like he, what he has tweeted, what he has said does not paint him in a very good light, and this story from Byline Times, it really does tell you one of the things, really does paint him in this picture. But again, these are obviously allegations. This is one of the things I do not understand in UK culture. In most of Europe, a suspicion is enough for a suspension, at least while investigations are pending, says Jow. Yeah, he should not be anywhere near broadcasting or columnist. He should not. I'm pretty sure he's not doing anything for the MailOnline, but he's still doing stuff for GB News, my understanding is. Dan Wootton on KGB News at the moment. Strap headline starts with debagging, SDR typo, debanking, says Chatty Rat. Yeah. Hello, Pagan. Good to see you there, bud. Hope you're well. If I didn't say it, I'm pretty sure I said hello. Did I not? If I didn't, I do apologise. But yeah, that's his position there. The next one. Dan Wootton was a serial bully at the Sun, but bosses promoted him as his complaints were silent. So apparently they were taking place and complaints were made and nothing was done about it, guys. He was the subject of at least 6 bullying claims from colleagues while working for the Sun. but was prompted by the newspaper as complaints were silenced with large payoffs and non-disclosure agreement, Byline Times can reveal. The allegations against journalists today, a star on GB News and columnists from MailOnline, range from constructive dismissal to age discrimination, while several witnesses all describe a culture of sexual harassment under Wootton. You have to stress these are allegations. This is a 3-year investigation by Byline Times, but obviously these are still allegations. We have to stress that. It follows this newspaper's revelation on Monday that Wootton used his online personas Martin Branning and Joseph Mill, among others, to trick and bribe scores of men into revealing compromising sexual material for tax-free and sums of money up to £30,000. They have yet clarified, so they still haven't responded. Obviously, they still have yet to respond to say whether they where their position lies on GB News on the Mail. He denies any allegations of criminality. Byline Times has now spoken to multiple former editorials and support staff at Britain's biggest tabloids, many of whom are fearful of being identified after their experiences working at the Murdoch-owned News UK. With one left suicidal, another suffering stress, involves hair loss, and others deserting the industry. For that reason, we are protecting their identities, although they are known by the former employees, which last night, in response to a request for comments sent by Byline Times, contacted all the staff at the Sun, announcing they were looking into allegations urgently. So when it was broke, obviously, this one, they announced to all the staff of the Sun, they said that they're going to look into the allegations. Whether we will find out more about that, it remains to be seen. Among questions to the publisher, Byline Times asked it to confirm the earliest state of any record held digitally or analogue formerly contacting the names Martin Branning or Maria Joseph. UK News declined to respond, but did not deny that all 6 individuals received severance payments contingent on the signing of binding restricted covenant or non-disclosure agreements. The cost of the legal proceedings and settlements is estimated to be more than £1 million. Its internal email to staff said various allegations have emerged online have been reported over the last few days in relation to Dan Wootton, many of you who will have worked for the Sun between 2013 and 2021. The matters reported are obviously very serious, include allegations that certain actions of Mr. Wootton may have affected some members of staff at the Sun. We are looking into these allegations urgently and wish to hear from staff who may have been impacted or have relevant information. This is the part I'm not going to like. You are either with him or against him. As part of the special 3-year investigation, while News UK last night urged potentially complaints to go to the Sun corporate affair teams, contacted by external media for comment, this newspaper is taking care not to reveal the sexes or job titles of the 6 people who is understood, and not only the ones who feel they were bullied or harassed by Wootton. In one of the cases, a very senior member of the Sun took a kitchen knife to the meeting with a former editor of the newspaper, with the intention of slitting their own wrist in front of the executive, who had sided with Wootton in his dispute, ultimately settled for a 6-figure sum. The Sun made the payout of the 11th hour at the steps of an employment tribunal in 2018, in which emails from Wootton disclosed to the employees lawyers would have entered the public records that led to judicial findings of fact. Former staff have told Byline Times investigation how Wootton continuously tried to make people admit they were bisexual or gay. He challenged people on their sexual orientation all the time. Again, we have to stress these are allegations. Several sources have spoken of the sexual harassment of male colleagues, while at least 2 female colleagues were reduced to tears daily by his conduct. Naming 3 particular targets of very inappropriate behaviour, they said. He sexually harassed these male colleagues all the time. One would come in and Dan would often comment by the way he looked and gloated them, saying, "Are you sure you want to be married? We all know you're gay." He was pressuring them to turn gay and acting like it was a joke. But people, men, women, everyone who heard, were visibly uncomfortable, especially if it was coming from a boss. A different source said, "You are either with him or against him. And if you are against him, he would make your life a misery. And if you are with him, he would treat you like a slave. He demanded people run errands for him, get him food and drinks, and do his dry cleaning. It was so demeaning, but it amused him. And if you wanted to stay in your job, there was no choice but to endure." Byline Times revealed how another complaint started losing their hair with stress after working closely with Wootton, whose conduct at the Sun executive editor was characterised as being one who considered himself untouchable and made you feel helpless. Losing their hair. It's horrible. Absolutely horrible. Guys, I have to keep stressing this is allegations, of course. And if you guys can, in any way, shape or form, subscribe to Byline Times and support the work they do, guys. Another UK staffer was marched from the company's headquarters after being undermined and constructively dismissed for months and months by Wootton before standing up to him with a complaint to the paper's then editor. The staffer said it was ridiculously stressful. He was consistently condescending and sarcastic. Diaries of his behaviour were kept and the things he was doing. As the boss, he had control over the company's payment system. He would sabotage other journalists. He would go into payment systems and find out the names of contacts. He would then get in touch with them himself and then make deals with them directly. It was impossible to do your job. The most valuable thing a journalist has are their contacts, and they are stock in trade. It was a classic campaign of constructive dismissal. He knew what he was doing. This guy allegedly took their contacts away from them and made them their own. It's pretty disgusting, to say the least. This is. Akisman, good to see you there, buddy. Hope you're well. Daily Blase, good to see you there, buddy. Great video on earlier today, mate. That was a fantastic video. I really enjoyed that one. Holding them to the fire, those people as the disgusting individuals, that fire and rehire scheme. Yeah, guys, if you haven't seen the video from Daily Blase, I did post it on my community chat. If you guys haven't seen it, definitely worth checking out, that's for sure. A different member of staff became thinner and thinner and cried every day. They worked for Wootton, who said they destroyed them physically and mentally. I once worked for a boss, and they wasn't the worst. Well, to be fair, I've never worked for a really bad boss, but the boss I worked for, he was very. I remember one time, when I asked him, I needed specific time off around Christmas to go and see family, and I remember putting in a holiday request form and the usual stuff, the usual way you do it in the company I worked for. And everybody else I've ever worked with, bosses or colleagues or whatever, have always been pretty cool when it comes to stuff like that. But this guy that I worked with, who took over as the store that I was working in several months after my previous manager boss, I remember getting into a right argument with him when I said this weeks ago about I needed this specific time off to go and spend time with my family at Christmas, and he kept ignoring it. And then when he said I couldn't have the time off, I enraged because he had more than enough bodies to cover the time off that I requested. And I got into a right state with him. This same person was allegedly not paying staff as well properly. He would make them work overtime without paying them as well. He would sometimes hold back on their pay as well. And he was extremely lazy. He would sit in the office all the time. He would never do any physical work. He wasn't as bad as him, but it reminds me of him when I read this, the way that this guy treats people. People like that don't deserve any power. You know, people like that makes me sick to my stomach, where there's no humanity, and they think of the job just as a money thing, and don't look at the whatever job you're working, don't think of the human aspect of these. Like, we're not robots, we are human beings with emotions and feelings, and we should be treated as such. And I always remembered that during the times when I was actually a boss, and try and be a human while at the same time have those responsibilities. Remember that people working under you are also human beings with emotions and feelings. That's important to remember that. Another editorial worker said there were months and months of real bullying, mind games and heavy emails, often late at night, so bad that they ruined your sleep. Just as UK News started questioning last night about Wootton's conduct there, bringing in external legal counsel and to oversee a human resource investigation, Byline Times can reveal it was not the first time Wootton's relationship with HR department had been questioned. In 2018 October, Private Eye reported on omissions about Wootton without naming him regarding an investigation into the subject of bullying complaints a year earlier. The magazine told how a tired and emotional former head of HR, Rachel Martin, who, like Wootton, is from New Zealand, had told a group of journalists drinking in a pub by News UK Central London HQ that she had tried to protect Wootton during a probe was overseen into his conduct. But Private Eye reported how the Sun journalist questioned Martin's impartiality, given he was seen enjoying Wootton's hospitality in the official News UK executive box at the O2, while her investigation into his behaviour was ongoing. Byline Times has learned that one of the Sun's 6 on legal advice went above Rachel Martin in their complaints in 2018. As a result, News UK was obliged to use HR professionals attached to a sister company, Wireless, to oversee an investigation leading to a larger settlement. Martin left the company and went back to New Zealand soon after. A source said at the Sun, Dan got so many perks and so many accesses it was easy for him to integrate himself. He made sure Rachel Martin was like his best mate. The list of complaints about Wootton did not stop News UK from promoting him and giving him pay rises and even more prominent positions at the newspaper. But he had a decisive fallout with the current editor Victoria Newton. In February 2020, on her first day of the role, Wootton left Newton furious by demanding she promoted him, prompting a cute move by the new editor, who reached out to Wootton's best remaining royal contacts and placed him on special retainer, ensuring that they dealt exclusively with her. A source said this was beginning the end of Dan at the Sun. He didn't like having the same move pulled on him, and he had done so many contacts on other people. Less than a year later, Wootton left News UK for his current position at GB News. So he got done over and he couldn't stand it, so he walked out because he had it done to him. Over the years, Wootton had used his Twitter X account, which now has 500,000 followers, to criticise other people's accused of bullying. Philip Schofield, yeah, we've talked about that, about him talking about Philip Schofield. He also used his bizarre column in The Sun in October 2016 to take aim at sexual harassment carried out by fallen Hollywood Mongol Harvey Weinstein. In his first person article, he contained a disgusting conspiracy of silence that he had claimed had been engineered by some of the most powerful and famous men in Hollywood to protect a beastly individual with a long and well-known track record of the most appalling and potentially illegal treatment of young, innocent and somewhat naive women. Wootton also used his platform to regularly discuss the use of NDAs and their legal vanity in their private lives in a number of celebrities, including TV personalities, Anthony Parlin and Paul Hollywood, despite the Sun 6 being subjected to them. Sounds quite hypocritical, doesn't it? Byline Times contacted a representative of Dan Wootton, but his solicitors declined to comment. Yeah, so that's the third one, guys. We've got 3 more to go through. This story, the more you read into it, the more it looks pretty grim for him. But I'm just going to swap the camera, guys. We're going to take a little break in between. I did say I had a funny video, so we're about halfway through before we got 3 more videos for you guys. BJ McCready, good to see you. I hope you're well. Thanks for coming along. Thanks for those plugs, Jal. Really appreciate it, buddy. Really do. Anybody else adding any more to what I've already said? Probably not. Are you? It's me. Oh, you've had to use. Okay. Okay. No. Yeah. Sorry, Casper. I had to do it because of what we're talking about. I had to just in case the video got taken down. So that's all right, buddy. Let's just do a little. Let me just give you guys something to lighten the mood, as they say. Something a little bit nicer. I hope you guys enjoy.
Before granting you entry to Egypt, you must first answer these simple questions. Is Egypt a democratic nation?
Well...
Correct. Who is the most popular pharaoh?
Mo Salah.
Correct. Egypt is known as a very fertile land. Why?
Because it has the largest population in the Arab world.
Which of the pyramids gets the highest tourist attendance per year?
The one in Las Vegas.
Correct, unfortunately. In terms of family life in Egypt, who is the most influential?
The mummy.
Correct. The pyramids at Giza generate 1.2 million what for Egypt every year?
Conspiracy theories.
What is the most serious traffic violation in Egypt?
Parking in the Suez Canal.
That's right, don't do it. There will be a fine. Name the 2 ways in which an Egyptian president can leave office.
It's death or coup d'etat.
That's right, either he goes or he goes in a box. Where is Upper Egypt?
At the bottom.
Where is Lower Egypt?
It's at the top.
Which recent Netflix series was criticized by Egyptians for its alleged historical inaccuracies?
Scorpion King 5, Book of Souls.
Yes, a disgrace. Which merciless pharaoh ruled Egypt for 3 decades, leaving behind a legacy of repression, brutality, and stolen treasure?
Mubarak.
And lastly, what can be said to be Egypt's darkest hour?
Walk like an Egyptian, the Bangles.
Correct. I hate that song! I will get your files. Welcome to Egypt.
Great.
This is enough.
Easy enough, yeah.
God,
no,
it's not like
over
what you'd
here.
expect,
No,
is it?
well, the stereotypes are way off.
Yeah.
There you go, guys. Now you know how to get into Egypt, guys. I hope you enjoyed that one. Right. Let's go into it, guys. Byline Times, guys. If you can subscribe to Byline Times, the link is in the description. Please do support their work, guys. This entire live stream is dedicated to Byline Times and the 3-year investigation that they have done into Martin Wootton. As I've said, and I will repeat it again, guys, these are allegations, of course. Hello, number 3. Good to see you, bud. I hope you're well. Yeah, I hope you guys all enjoyed that. Okay, now for this, back to the serious stuff, guys. Martin Branning, his first victim. So this one was on the 24th of July, this one. So, excuse me. I hope you didn't hear my burp. That was terrible. Martin Branning blackmailed the partner of Murdoch's journalist into making a covert sex video, later found hidden behind the washing machine of GB News staff Dan Wootton, Byline Times can reveal. Branning, unmasked last week by this newspaper as an online alias used by Wootton, threatened to send sexual material compromising the partner to their family, employees and Facebook friends if they did not cooperate. The resulting film was later discovered on a black hard drive in a padlock holdall in Wootton's East London home by his former boyfriend Alex Trusby, whose tweets on 12th of July about the discovery has now been viewed around 17 million times. Wootton has since used his primetime nightly news GB News show to attack Mr. Trusby's account as an untrue story, claiming to be a target of a smear campaign deemed near favorable players and denying criminal behaviour, but not to being or being connected to Branning. Part of the 3-year investigation, the victim forced to make videos of how Branning drove him into the brink of suicide with a 10-year campaign of anonymous cohesion. The partner, a man whose identity Byline Times is protecting, but who says he will give evidence to the Metropolitan Police, said the fallout from this went on for years. I literally quit my London life. I lost everything and I went into the depths of depression. I definitely considered suicide. I did not want to be around anymore. I blame myself for the whole situation and I'm coming to the terms with it now. Now I want to get it sorted out. The victim revealed how Branning started sending emails, some of which this newspaper is publishing for the first time today. Shortly after, the man, through his partner, met Wootton at the London Members Club in 2008 and continued until 2018. The Branning emails claimed to be from a go-in-between on behalf of an unnamed but interested third party, offering the man, who Wootton knew that at the time was in financial trouble, of up to £500,000 a week for modelling and other work. In an email on the 26th of June 2008, Branning wrote, I had your email and a couple of pictures of you passed along to me because I heard you might be interested in making some extra cash through a sort of modelling and other work. I've got an offer. Don't know if the person mentioned it to you, but I'm really keen to chat with you further. All completely confidential, of course. Quizzed by the man who asked Branning who had shared his details, Branning followed on the 27th of July by writing, Well, look, as someone who knows you through the members club, but I always promise never to pass on those details because this person has worked for me in the past. Basically, he said you are an open-minded guy who's always looking for a way to make more money, which sounds perfect to me. I do a whole range of modelling and that sort of work, which you'd like to see what you might be up for. So this is allegedly one of the emails, so from the person to Martin, saying, well, I never say never, but I'm quite curious who has passed to you my details. More info, please. Look forward to your response. And Martin Branning, obviously Dan Wootton, allegedly said, cool, well, it's something he knows you through, but I always promise never to pass on those details because the past basically said you're an open-minded guy. A whole range of modelling sorted. Drop me a line whenever you can, Martin X. The work turned out to be the creation of adult films made consensually between the man and a stream of individuals whose physical types Branning would deride, with the man then locating corresponding candidates on the same sex dating app Grindr and Grindr. Once located, Branning sent handheld digital cameras to the man by motorbike courier, which were then collected in the same way once the films were made and followed. Often, some weeks later, a delivery of cash. Wootton was then TV editor of the now defunded News of the World. At that time, I needed money, the victim said. It was an attractive offer. The courier would come with a video camera, he would supply it and make footage with it and send it back with a courier. There'd never be money until weeks later. I would be thinking he had me stitched up. Ultimately, money would be delivered by courier. Sweatwords of 20s, basically. Extremely dodgy and uncomfortable to get it sent like that to you. Before setting the target to work, Branning gave a list of high personal questions, making invasive inquiries about his sexuality and finances, along with a menu of photographic requirements. I know it sounds full on, but to say it's completely standard, wrote Branning on the 7th of July 2008 before making directions for a series of graphic poses along with the questions, have you ever slept with a celebrity? To which the victim said no. In his journalistic career, Dan Wootton revealed a number of men as gay and bisexual, including Duncan James from the band Blue and a star from the BBC reality show The Be Apprentice. In November 2014, The Sun's bizarre columnist, which was an editor at the time, even launched a so-called bi-bus, testing his theory that most of us are a little bit bisexual, particularly in the world of celebrity. In a further email on 29th of July 2018, Branning gave the man instructions on how to persuade targets to agree to be filmed. Branning wrote, you make it a really horny idea with whatever you're seeing. All I need you to say is, I'd love you to film with me as you... me. It works with all guys, trust me. Anyway, just keep me informed of your progress. Giving these accounts of the events to Byline Times, the man said, I wish I'd never responded to that first email, but I did. Nowadays, people do OnlyFans, and I think it's the same kind of thing back in those days. It all seemed quite innocent, and I thought, I'm not hurting anybody. Then it escalated, it got heavier, and I did some content over. The guys I was meeting were up for being filmed on camera. It was consenting. Brandon's pretext for applying pressure to the victims was to say that he was working on behalf of demanding third parties who seemingly had intimidating knowledge of the victim's partner and their movements as a couple. In fact, the victims had been introduced to Wootton by the victim's partner in the early stages of the relationship, and the partner has also worked for News UK. The victim said, I'd always felt that Dan Wootton had a strange obsession with my ex, 100%, and it was weird. And I was always saying, that guy's massively in love with you and is obsessed with you. And when I came into the relationship, you could tell that there was jealousy aspects from Wootton. It was so obvious. Branning's knowledge of details about the victim's private life was soon unnerved him. It was odd. Say I was going on holiday with my partner, their messages would get more intense and requests would get more and more common, he told Byline Times. It just ramped up and it was like, well, God, this guy knows too much about me. That was the scary thing, and it was just frightening, really. I couldn't get away anywhere, and I felt I was under scrutiny in some way, shape or form. And you could lose trust with a lot of people that you know because you started thinking, well, it's got to be somebody feeding information to who I thought was a genuine person. I had no idea. Things started to come to a head when Branning told the victim to make a film with his partner, who then said he did not want to make this one consensually. The victim said, It started with, "Do you know this guy?" I told him I was going to do this, but the pressure was mounting. He went on, "I said it's not going to happen. He's not interested. It will be difficult to obtain. But then, just take some discreet pictures if you can." When he refused, Branning became ruthless. Brandon said, "If you don't get his footage, there are consequences, and if you don't want your employer to find out, or your friends or family to know what you've been doing." This sounds like blackmails to me, guys. Really bad stuff. He continued that no one wants their mum or dad to see you effing someone. And that's what it was. But if you don't, your family and friends and your colleagues and your employers are going to see what you've been doing. You know. That was the heaviest part of it. I did try to ignore all of them and tell them to F off, basically. But it just got more intense. After Branning threatened the partner, offered them money, and then crucially the promise to make it a final demand of him, he reluctantly agreed to secretly make the video, which Anish Tumby would later find before confronting Wootton, who Mr. Tumby said he made a tearful confession to being Branning. The man said it was a barrage of pressure to get this, or otherwise your cover would be blown. In the end, it was like, F it, I will just do it. After he was blackmailed into it, the then ex-partner said yes. He added the guilt and the shame of actually doing what I'd done to somebody that I was in a relationship with. That's the thing that to this day makes me feel sick, because there's consequences to that. I still can't forgive myself for doing that to somebody else. The strain it put on the relationship began to take a toll, and it flooded and failed after Branning made good on his threats to expose the victim's work for him by sending an edit of the worst bits to his partner. He said it was well edited. It was just a montage of me and things that I sent out. And this guy knows how to get a hold of people that are very, very close to me. In an email sent to Branning on the 30th of May 2011, the victim said, "A video of me was sent to my partner with footage of every person I'd been with and sent to you. You promised me that wouldn't happen. You really don't know the damage caused." To which Branning replied, "Must have been the other guy, because he was getting really annoyed. You couldn't get any footage with the partner, who I think he knows." It's alright, number 3. And you guys laughing at Casper being BJ McCready. What followed was a campaign apparently designed to chase the ex out of town and ensure his future silence. He said, and then it was harassment, it was horrendous. I left London to get away from it, and I changed my phone number, blocked all of these Martin Branning email addresses that would come in, but still managed to get a hold of me until 2018 when it all stopped. No denial of link to Branning. The victim only became aware of the connections between Branning and Dan Wootton after Byline Times unmasked him as a serial catfish who'd used various online identities to trick and bribe scores of men into revealing compromised sexual material. So they didn't even know it was him until Byline Times blew the story. Revealed the 40-year-old broadcaster and self-styled voice against woke culture who showed Dan Wootton tonight. Yeah, we know that already. While this newspaper repeatedly has not received a response, still no response on this one. The man said he never clapped eyes on Dan Wootton again since their first meeting, until I saw him once at another members club, and he was like, "Hi, how are you?" And I just told him to F off, basically. I had no idea. Didn't like him as a person. I had no idea who he was, the person who posed as Branning. Last week, in response to Byline Times' investigation on his GB News show, the presenter rallied against supported dark forces seeking to cancel him Mr. Smear campaign. Alex Chuby said he created an untrue story about me, appears to be on the channel with an organisation who attempt to close down the channel. He then added, "Like all fallible human beings." Yep, we've read that bit already. Who doesn't have regrets? Yep, we've read that already. They were looking into allegations made in recent days. That's on News UK. We've read that already. Yeah, we've read most of this already. It's kind of from the other articles, guys. So, I just cannot tell you how much I sympathise with this man. I really can't tell you how much I sympathise with him. It's pretty disgusting to say the least, guys. Again, we have to stress these are allegations. These are allegations, guys. but yeah, it does make it look bad for sure. Yeah, we are going to go over time, guys. If some of I'm going to warn you now because we still have 2 more to go through. Dan Wootton paid porn stars with the son's Depp money for Covert Catfish sex videos. I can't remember if I covered this in a video or on the Snowflake show. I might have done on one of the 2. GB News presenter Dan Wootton paid adult film stars to meet gay men he had catfished in order to secretly record them having sex. Byline Times revealed. Wootton went into Facebook profiles, released 3 different male porn performers for up to £500 a time before posing as them and tricking his targets into meeting Covert film with camera supplies. At least one of those meetings took place at a hotel paid for by the Rupert Murdoch, the Sun newspaper of which Wootton was associated editor at the time. The journalist also charged a £1,500 porn star fee for the private work for his then employer's New UK, disguised as payment for content for a front page story about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. This newspaper had interviewed 2 of the adult performers involved in the evidence from another man, also paid by Wootton to make secret sex tapes with him. We've covered that one. It's also identified the victims of 2 of Wootton's Catfish conspiracy, which separated user phenomena, Martin Branning and Justice. For legal reasons, we're not naming them. Yeah, we've confirmed that. However, it can be confirmed that the information was given to the police. Yeah, we're aware of that as well. Right. In this 4th part of this 3-year special investigation into Dan Wootton's personal and professional conduct, the male porn star revealed how the presenter paid to use their Facebook profiles to target men of interest. One told this newspaper, Dan used to pay us anywhere between £300 and £500 to use our Facebooks. I didn't know these people he was messaging. It was all males he was messaging as me, basically. I know he was using Facebook of 2 other adult entertainers. I was watching the messages on one of the adult entertainers' accounts to this other lad, but he was deleting them. As they were firing out and coming back, he was deleting them as they were going along. Asked if Wootton was destroying evidence on a rolling basis as it came up, the entertainer said yes, Dan was doing it. The other adult entertainer said he allowed Wootton to use his Facebook profile because he needed the easy money, and described seeing the now GB News star targeting 5 or 6 men from one account. He said he paid me to use my Facebook account and I still had access to it, but I gave him my password and then I felt I had enough and I changed my password. After a while, Dan would message me, he had in Wootton would say, I've got a guy here if you're interested in coming down and filming it. The first entertainer continued, so it was initially paying people to use their Facebook accounts and film people having sex. These people we used to meet, I didn't know who they were. I think they were from Dan's circle, and the films were an attempt to get one up on them. I can't say for certain, but I think it was to get compromising material on people. That is my belief. Why else would you want someone filmed without their knowledge and be so adamant that you want it filmed? He wanted it filmed secretly. In 2016, Wootton told the 2 porn star actors, then aged in their mid-20s, to meet them outside the Sun's office in London Bridge and issued them with details of a target, filming equipment and direct discretional instructions. The first porn star actor said there were 2 cameras and an iPad, and we had to pick up from Dan from the shard. He noticed that the iPad was lodged into Wootton's Apple iCloud via his Apple ID. This was in 2016, he continued. I was in the back of the car when Dan got into it. The guy we were messaging, you could tell from the contents of the messages he didn't want it filmed. But Dan's like, I don't care what he says, you get in there and get the film. Before you even go into the house, we get the cameras on, I want the walk-in. The actor told Wootton, you can't effing do that, Dan, and says the presenter responded by saying, don't worry about him, he'll be fine. You know where this is going, guys. The first actor was reluctant to carry on with the target's permission, so I said to the second actor, no, we're not doing it, we're not effing filming someone without their consent, we're not doing it. When they approached the target, he was skeptical. We knocked on his door introducing ourselves, and he was like, I don't believe you, 2 porn stars want to come down and film me. And he was like, yeah, it's what we do. Basically, it's for personal use. This is what me and my mate do. We go around effing people for a laugh. The guy could tell something was amiss. He weren't buying the story. After about 10-15 minutes of free play, light to sexual activity, I advised him that the camera was going to come out, and he was like, no, I don't want it filmed, I don't want it filmed. I was like, okay, well, that's kind of it then. We didn't get anything on film, so we took Dan's camera back, and we said, you boys head back to their home location, I'll sort your money out. The second actor told of another occasion of which Wootton instructed him and a different well-known male porn star to target a man he had catfished into a meeting at a hotel very close to Wootton's then home in East London. The entertainer said, we went to Dan's flat in London, he was asking us to film another chat, he wanted it secret, he wanted it to film it secretly. Explaining that the target agreed to having the film made on the provisional so that it was for the private use of consenting party had in. So we filmed that, it was given to Dan, Dan was happy with it, and he paid us, I think it was £500 cash. I can't remember if it was paid in cash or by bank transfer. Is this part of it? Yeah, this was done allegedly here. Looking like it here. Controversial to call him perfect, though he was already before this came out, said angry pagan. I really appreciate it, Jao. Thank you. We need to be careful, as always. Social media scandals and blackmails are really serious stuff, at least here. Yep, that's why I'm always stressing allegations. Yeah, we always have to stress the word allegations, guys. I know you guys are sensible. You guys understand. So, and at least the occasion, Wootton paid the adult film star fee with the Sun's money. On 10th of June 2016, Wootton sent an email to his work address. Dan Wootton at sun.co.uk with the newspaper editorial clerk, registering the porn star as a new payee on the contributions payment system. The email, which Byline Times has obtained, reads, I need set up of a new payee, please. He put down the 1,500 urgently on the Amber Heard splash story last week. Thanks, Dan. Analysis of the Sun story from the relevant time frame suggests the payment, which the entertainer confirms was not information about Johnny Depp or Amber Heard, but was in lieu of an article Wootton wrote about the Hollywood pair's private lives. This newspaper also spoke to another man Wootton paid to make a secret film with an unwritten third party in 2012, this time at the London Savory Hotel in a suite paid for by their sponsors of the BAFTAs, the telecom company Orange. The man said he had initially dealt with Wootton's alter ego Martin Branning and had made secret films for Branning for £250 a time before being approached openly by Wootton and asked to meet another man who he covertly filmed without consent. He said it was on a Sunday during the BAFTAs while Dan was still at the Sun. I got a message from Wootton himself. He asked me to secretly record me performing a specific sex act on a man who did not know he was being filmed at a hotel room at Savory for the money. Although the filming went ahead, in the event there was no sexual activity as the pair instead got drunk in the room's minibar. The man said, I was secretly recording, correct, but I didn't perform any sex act and we just drank in the hotel room. What Wootton asked me to do didn't really happen, but he still asked me to video the man without his consent. The allegations in this article were put to Dan Wootton and his newspaper has still not received a response. They still have not, Wootton's denied any allegations of criminality. I think this is all the same stuff here, guys. Conservative MP Dan Caroline Diller, chair of the House of Commons Digital Media Committee, has written to Victoria Newton, head of the Sun, so you can set out what investigations are taking place into the former employer Wootton. Not good, guys. There's not so much on Wootton, but really just kind of the. I think I'll try and brush through this one a bit more quickly for you guys, because for all these stories, it's just so. I mean, again, I know these are all allegations, but damn, this is just. I just feel nothing but sympathy for all these alleged victims, guys. I mean, it's just pretty despicable if this all comes to light. If this is all found to be true. The Metropolitan Police cannot ignore this kind of evidence. They really cannot. We are going to go over time, guys. I'm just warning you now. The MailOnline and the Sun hid serious Dan Wootton claims while attacking Hugh Edwards at the BBC. We covered this. I'm not going to read too much into it because we covered most of this on the Snowflake show, but I'll read some of it just for the sake of the live stream, guys. MailOnline knew of serious criminal allegations of sexual nature about its columnist Dan Wootton in May, yet failed to respond failed to report them to the police and continued to publish his work on 5 occasions, Byline Times can reveal. Wootton's former employee sons also failed to report to the same detailed allegations to the police, despite knowing about them since the 7th of June 2023, a month before running the controversial front page about the BBC presenter lawfully paying for sexual images. Such a contrast there between this and Hugh Edwards, isn't it, guys? The matter was reported to the publication of the former male adult star entertainer who was then employed to help him catfish men of sexual interest and secretly record them in their home having sex. Further allegations also made is also known in both newspapers, details of which are unable to report at this time. The man told Byline Times the Mail they couldn't touch the story as Wootton worked for them. They said it sounded like a very serious criminal matter and said that they should go to the police, which I did. I also told the Sun about it and the fact that Wootton had paid one of my colleagues for sex work after their own accounts pretended that he was the source on the story about Amber Heard. They also told me to report to the police, so I did that in June. Neither publication has since reported on all 3 special investigations into the personal and professional conduct of Wootton that Byline Times started breaking 11 days ago. Yet the Sun did cover Wootton's denials in a 143-word piece on July 20th. News UK, its publisher, has since set up an initial inquiry, and MailOnline has unofficially paused Wootton's column. It's unable to confirm at this time whether that column's back up or not, but they did pause it. I'm aware of it. However, the failure of publisher Associated Newspaper LDC and News UK LIC failed to act sooner in attracting strong criticism, given both took aim at the BBC during the same period for its handling of the Hugh Edwards affair. It doesn't look good for him. The fact that Dan Wootton's employers and previous employers knew of allegations against him and did nothing for at least 6 weeks before Byline Times started reporting them means that the public interest here is not just in alleged actions, but their actions to supposedly responsible publishers and employers. Paul Rank, professional of media law at the University of Leeds, told the newspaper. Today, in the latest part of Byline Times, the Media 2 investigation abuses of power in publishing and broadcasting can reveal how the experts contacting MailOnline amid a mounting pressure of scandals about the former ITV presenter Philip Schofield. We talked about that already. Denied any allegations. We've read that already. The complainant now left GB News, left him suicidal, chaotic life. The complainant told Byline Times that his interactions with the now GB News star. We've read that already. After that, the Sun told them about Wootton and the Amber Heard stuff. The evidence seemed obvious and their own account stuff. We've read that stuff already. What's this on the right hand side? After Philip Schofield, the next one in the morning should be investigated in Dan Wootton. I'm an ex-porn star and a escort. I've worked for Dan for several occasions. The things he's asked me to do without were illegal. He asked us to film others without their consent. He also used to pay myself and others to use our Facebook messages. How much for a story like this? However, more information on him. During the period, both MailOnline broke stories about Hugh Edwards, who was no longer air for the BBC, according to the wife, with serious mental health issues. In defence of his article about Edwards, which had been heavily criticised, the Sun wrote in a comment piece on July 30th, a desperate couple approached us with the film firm evidence and that he was paying us large sums to a young person with a spiraling drug addiction, and that the star had been sent sexual pictures. But police said nothing could be done, and despite a detailed complaint to the BBC, it did nothing either. What do our critics, especially Mr. Harris' peerless media friends, think we should have done? Told our families to shove off, turned a blind eye to what appeared to be a clear abuse of power by a household name? MailOnline had been seriously critical of the BBC for posing as the moral consensus of the nation over the Edwards saga. On Wednesday's column, Brendan McNeil wrote, the authorization urge to elevate certain stories and diminish others robs ordinary people of the right to know what is really happening in this country. There is nothing virtuous about it. On the contrary, these are the despondent antics of people who think they should have the power to control the flow of information themselves. For Professor Rung, Dan Wootton has set himself up as a moral arbitrator whose job it is to condemn others for moral flaws, and that means his own moral flaws are a matter of clear public interest. He is a man who has been instructed in exposing highly sensitive details of the private lives of many people in public life, including television presenter Philip Schofield and the musical entertainer Duncan James, he told Byline Times. He made a career out of subjugating others to virtual, but now seems to want the protection of the law as a matter of privacy and defamation. Now his own alleged actions are being subject to scrutiny. He added, during the precise time frame the Sun was breaking a big story about the BBC News anchor Hugh Edwards, and it seems extraordinary that they would not have taken the opportunity to refer the serious allegations against Mr. Wootton to the police themselves. At the very least, this inaction and the decision by MailOnline to allow Mr. Wootton to continue to publish columns under his name seriously undermines the moral stance it has taken by criticising the BBC and BBC's conduct in relation to Mr. Edwards. It also undermines their credibility as a serious news organisation. This is a clear ethical failing that the IPSO, the press complaints handler, should investigate, given that it claims to uphold editorial standards. Wootton has written 5 columns for the MailOnline since the man first contacted him with his allegations. In one column on the 30th May, Wootton discussed Philip Schofield, saying, "I would have thought all this day and age that the mainstream broadcaster that such an ITV ought to see." Yeah, we've covered that already. Wootton also called for the truth this time, not for the sardine fairy tale Schofield offered up on the sofa to an unsuspected British public. In the follow-up column on June the 15th, Wootton wrote of the ITV treatment of Schofield affair. As a result of this cover-up and PR disaster, it followed many loyal viewers who never trusted This Morning on the channel or its broadcast on again. Byline Times put a series of questions connected to this article to News UK and associated newspapers, but received no response. Again, no response, guys. This newspaper will update its article if it does. A spokesperson for the Metropolitan Police said, in June 2023, the Metropolitan Police was contacted with regarding to allegations of sexual offences committed by a man. Officers are assessing information as to whether established whether any criminal offences had taken place. There is no police investigation at the time. Dan Evans is a former colleague of Dan Wootton from the News of the World. None of the sources in this article were paid for their testimony. Guys, what does this all mean about Dan Wootton? First and foremost, I just want to say, let me just switch my camera, guys. I want to say, Byline Times have been working on this story for 3 years. Now, obviously, again, these are allegations. However, Byline Times has been one of the most reliable sources of information out there. And they are not funded by hedge funds or by private businesses or equity. They are funded by people who pay into it, by subscriptions. There's no corporate media behind their organisation. These are real independent journalists who work tirelessly to bring the real news to the people. Now, having said that, as I said, this has been a story that they've been working on for a very long time, and you can see that there were other stories of, as we talked about this today, snippets of stories related to this from Private Eye, from Guardian, from Independent, snippets of it around, but never really coming to light. And Byline Times has worked tirelessly to expose Dan Wootton allegedly for these crimes. As I said, allegedly for these crimes. Now, it's going to be a long time, unfortunately, before, in my opinion, because I think that's going to be the way things work, sadly, that something is going to take place. However, the longer he is allowed to keep recording on GB News, just is more of a damnation of the British tabloid media, who continue to ignore it. Yes, certain media outlets did report on it, but it never got the mainstream media attention that Hugh Edwards got. And we're talking about much more serious allegations here. We're talking about people's lives completely destroyed by this man for what he allegedly had done. And they are absolutely disgusting, deplorable, despicable, inhumane, to say the least. And for him to go on GB News and to claim that he is some kind of victim in these allegations, instead of actually taking this seriously and not stepping away from the limelight to actually address these issues, makes him look incredibly guilty. And obviously there may be more to this. I could be wrong. It has been quite a few days since this last one. Byline Times has not published anything more as far as I'm aware. But obviously, if they do publish another thing, I will try to put that out for you guys. But we do have one more video for you guys to kind of break away from all of this. But before we do, guys, I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who has come along for this. I know there wasn't that the numbers are quite low today because of the fact that this is an 18+ video, and I felt I had to compel to do it considering what we were going to be talking about and some of the things that we're going to be talking about in the stories, which were quite demoralizing to say the least, guys. But I think just putting it all into one video for you guys as a breakdown, I thought was better than doing different videos on different articles for this story. And I think it was important to kind of put it all together in one piece for you guys. Obviously, I did have to jump over a few hoops because obviously some of it was rinse and repeat in some of the articles. But but I think putting it all together was really, really important. So guys, if you can, obviously before you guys head on your way out, hit the like button and share across social media wherever you possibly can. It'd be much appreciated. Obviously we have the Snowflake show on Wednesday at 9 o'clock. That will be a bit more uplifting, we will say, than this story. I will be in the after chat for a little bit as well if you guys want to join me on the Discord there as well. The link is in the description if you guys want to join us on Discord, so that will be there too. I'm just going to have a quick read through the comments before we go to the one final video. Not controversial to call him pathetic though, he was already before this came out, says Pagan. That's fine, Murphy, but I have cash flow funds. Who doesn't, sadly, said number 3. There's so much shit these days and it's boring, perhaps a deliberate strategy, says number 3. Boris described distracting people with multiple news stories at once on Dame Edna's show years ago. Number 3, so it could well be intentional. Wootton has friends in high places, I wonder why, says Pagan. Yep. What I find sad is the UK being a state where you can go to the news before going to the police, and people have explained to me why it is. Yeah. Did Dan Wootton go to acting school? Maybe he did. Don't worry, number 3. Don't worry about it. Honestly, if you don't have money, don't worry about it, number 3. In all seriousness, don't worry about it. In all seriousness, it's fine. Today is about, you know, highlighting this very important story that I wanted to really highlight it today, as much in detail as I can. And hopefully some people at Byline Times might need it or see it as well, maybe highlight it themselves. It would be nice if they did as well, because you know, for someone to sit and read through all that is a lot, to be fair, guys. So thank you guys so much for watching and coming along. Really do appreciate it. But before we go, we've got our friend from Portsmouth to speak to. Again, it is an old one, guys, but you know, he knows his stuff, guys. And considering what's going on in America right now with Trump, I thought this one, yes, it's a bit of an old one, but I thought it's quite fitting considering what's going on, guys. So thank you very much, guys, and I'm going to hit the outro after the video, guys. So take care and have a great week, whatever you guys are doing.
Colin from Portsmouth is on the line. Hello, Colin.
I'm disgusted, Anthony. Absolutely disgusted with how they're treating Donald Trump.
Oh, you're not taking news of his indictment well, Colin.
If Donald Trump is found guilty for breaking the law, that means any one of us could be convicted if we did a crime.
Well,
it's a dangerous precedent for democracy, Anthony. These lefty lawyers are looking at the rule books and coming at anyone who does something wrong.
Do you think it's political, Colin, prosecuting people who break the law?
Of course it's political, and it's terrifying. I would have fought in 2 world wars if I'd been born slightly earlier, and I didn't have nearly fought in them for this.
No.
You know, Anthony, I'm glad we've cut right back on police in this country, or we could be convicted for anything. Theft, arson.
Fraud?
No, not fraud, Anthony.
No.
Thankfully, fraud conviction rates are going down. You've got to have some freedoms. I tell you what, you know who I feel sorry for?
Who do you feel sorry for, Colin?
I feel sorry for all those who supported him. When Michael Gove stood with him with his thumb up like he'd been allowed in the cockpit to have a picture with the pilot, and all the other people who said he was great. I fear if Donald Trump is convicted, those people are going to look like right wallies. And whose fault is that? Lefty bloody lawyers, that's who. They should be locked up for even trying to lock him up. Anyway, Anthony, thanks for having me on. Love to the family.
Love to the family, Colin. Love to the family.
I fear for Piers Morgan's reputation. I really do.
Colin.
Good night, guys.